Hi, everybody. It's your old pal, Uncle Hondo from the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. Great to be with you today. As you know, I'm your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer, covering, of course, Las Vegas Raiders for Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation. Great to be with you today. We got a ton of information to dig into. We're going to get at it and go at it. A lot of things going on, a lot of really good questions from you, a lot of different topics, all Raider-centric today. And so here we go. Let's get going. First question comes from, and by the way, you can follow me on IG at Hondo SR on X, formerly known as Twitter. When you go to at Hondo Carpenter, at HondoCarpenter. And remember, you can email me at SpartanNationMail, MAIL, at yahoo.com. Now, I need to quickly tell you something. Some of you send me voluminous amounts of email. And if you send a bunch, I get too much email and it just doesn't get read. I will read one a week from you, and then the rest, it just has to go because it gets so much email. It's not me being a jerk. It's not me not caring. And I don't have to say anything. In fact, somebody told me just don't say anything. I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair to not read an email and not at least give an explanation. But like I had one guy that sent me, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 emails in a couple of days. I just simply don't have time. And some of you send some that aren't questions. It's just opinions, and they do get looked at. I just don't respond because you gave your opinion. I heard it, and we move on. But or just to the point where I just say can't read them all. Sorry. I'll let you know that we just randomly selected some. But remember, always put in the subject line Raiders Q&A. If it's not a question, if it's an opinion, just put Raiders opinion, whatever. Try to be as descriptive as you can in the subject line. But if you send too many, it literally just kicks it out that you're a spammer. So please be careful of that, because I want you to be heard and I want you to be listened to. And I think you deserve to know that. All right, let's get going. First one comes from Nolan in New Mexico. Hondo, do you think the Raiders have a legitimate shot at drafting offensive tackle in the first round and then landing Kool-Aid McKinstry in the second round due to the foot injury? No. No. I will be stunned if Kool-Aid gets out of the first round. He is a guy that was projected by many going into the year and even halfway through the year as the #1 corner. Then he kind of fell to 2 behind his teammate Terrion Arnold. And but no, his Lisfranc injury was found at the pro days. It's being dealt with. I'm being told that they're obviously could hurt him a little bit early in the year next year, but that everybody who at least I've talked to said they don't have any issues about any long-term effect. I would be stunned if Kool-Aid got to them in the second round. And there are too many good teams drafting at the end. Now, bad teams are bad teams for a reason, and they draft poorly. And go back and look at the last 10 drafts and do a graph of where everybody picks, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Some teams are just bad drafting teams, and it's also not a coincidence. They're usually bad record teams. So, no, I would be stunned for that to happen. Good question, though, Nolan. And you can dream and pray. That would be a great draft. All right, here we go. This comes to us from Mark C. On the offensive line, I am a fan of letting young and upcoming Thayer Mumford continue to anchor the right tackle and grab an elite corner or defensive tackle in round 1. But I am very curious to know if the Raiders think last year's big money UDFA tackle prospect Dalton Wagner is ready to make the jump to starting right tackle and compete for the job. That's from Mark C. Well, first of all, you are welcome to any opinion you want. I would take away the term, well, no, I think you said it right. He's a big money UDFA. A big money, which if you don't know what that term means, it means undrafted free agent. That means a player who was eligible to be drafted that wasn't, that gets signed after the draft. They're called the UDFA. Couple of points. Wagner, his biggest problem coming out of college was he couldn't stay healthy. Okay, he's been with the Raiders a year. So when you say Do they think he's ready? The guy would have been a first-round draft pick if he didn't have so many injury issues coming out of Arkansas. And I don't know how you have any faith in someone who can't stay healthy. Great kid. All of the intangibles that only God can give. He is a mountain. But the best ability is availability. That should be part of y'all's drinking game because I say it all the time. And I say it all year. The best, or maybe just don't have a drinking game, but whatever. I'm laughing because my wife made a joke about y'all's drinking game. She said, "Do mimosas count?" Anyways, everybody can be big on them, but you got to come through. You got to stay healthy. And listen, just because a guy gets injured a lot doesn't mean they're a wimp. I'm not claiming that. He's a good kid, but just Max Crosby. I asked around. As you guys know, I was reporting about Max being injured long before anyone even knew about it. And I asked around, and I asked several NFL executives, what are the chances? What are the chances that other players would have played with Max's injury? And every executive is like, no chance at all. I mean, the guy potentially could have had his leg amputated if he went septic at a very high level. Max is a unicorn. Max plays through injuries that other guys would say, nope, can't go. Now, I'm not saying that that's what people need to do. But what I am saying is there are some guys that nothing's going to keep them off the field. Then there are some guys that a lot keep them off the field. Then there are some guys who are off the field legitimately, but they just can't stay healthy. And everybody wants to talk about Dalton because of how he looks. But do you notice there isn't a lot of talk about how he plays? He's got to put it on tape. And again, rooting for him, he's a great kid. Not a good kid. He's a great kid. A lot of talent. When he's healthy, he can do some stuff. Got to put it on tape. Next, this one comes to us from Colby, C-O-L-B-V. Dear Uncle Hondo, I'd love to hear your opinion on what you're hearing about the direction of the Raiders are going to get to go at O-line. I personally think one of those young offensive tackles is in play at 13 in the draft and compete with Mumford. I would love to see them take a flyer on a vet like Kevin. Well, obviously he's out. The guard. Thank you so much for your work covering the Raiders. You've become a must listen for me every single day. Well, yeah, I had him in my last draft as an offensive tackle. I have been offensive tackle, defensive line all along. I think there could be a corner. I think there's still a chance that they address that in free agency. Nothing imminent. Now, I'm not implying that. I just think that's something that could be addressed. And I know that they would like to. So let's see how the cards fall out there. But yeah, I had in my last draft that happens, and we're going to see. So let's keep moving. Next, this comes to us. No name here, and I apologize because we don't read emails with no name. So I'm going to assume one of my staffers made a mistake because we don't read emails with no names. So I'm assuming a staffer made a mistake, so I'm going to read it. And but I apologize. And just know if you don't give a name, we don't read it, and they know that. So clearly, I think they made a mistake. It says, I am messaging you today in regards to your mock draft 2.0. I am well aware that things change the farther that you get into the draft process, but I was shocked to see that both J.C. Latham and Terrion Arnold were both still on the board when you selected the tackle from Penn State. Not long ago, you made it sound like one of these two were to be the pick if the desired quarterback doesn't fall into the lap. Is that the reflection of how you think the Raiders have the players ranked, or this is a reflection of what you have been hearing from around the league? Keep up the good work. Oh, no. This is the person's name was in the email. Tony Kipe. Tony Kipe. All right, so that's from Tony Kipe. All right, Tony. First of all, it's a reflection of what the NFL players thought. The gentleman from Penn State fell in that mock draft based on some teams making some picks that didn't necessarily make a ton of sense. And so that's a guy that earlier when I said Latham or Arnold, didn't think that he would be falling there. So that's where that all came about. I hope that makes sense to you. Love Terry and Arnold. Love Latham. Love the young man from Penn. There are several players at 13 that I just think are awesome. So there you go. Now, this is the one that there's no name, and I apologize, but I'm gonna believe my staff probably missed this one, so please forgive me. And don't send one without a name because it just gets deleted. Hondo, love the podcast. My son and I listen daily. And discuss the topics by phone since we live in different states. It helps keep us connected to one another. And now my grandkids are part of the nation. Truly a family tradition. Okay, I don't see the question there, but I know that was from a gentleman in the Villages in Florida. Don't know how that got in. Sorry, everybody. Okay. Now here's the question. Okay, there was the space. Now, if the Raiders stay where they are, and in the draft, do you think it would be wise to draft a cornerback first and an offensive lineman second, since the depth of offensive line seems much deeper than cornerback? And this is from Mike Peterson in the Villages. Okay, sorry about that, Mike. It was a 2-paragrapher and they didn't put it into one. It depends. Okay, I think you're going to get quality offensive linemen in the second round. So I would have zero issue with going offensive line in the first round and the second round. I think there's even going to be some quality in the third round. So yeah, I think a shutdown corner like a Terry and Arnold would be humongous if they don't address it. Now, they could address it by signing a free agent. They could address it by trade. You never know. But if they don't address it, I would love to see the Raiders get Terry and Arnold. I think if a quarterback were to drop, quarterback is viable, but I don't see a quarterback dropping. So offensive line, defensive line, or corner are what you're going to see at 13 if they stay at 13. And yes, I still believe that the Raiders, don't rule out another defensive lineman. Don't rule out another defensive lineman for the Raiders in the first round. I told you guys this before. AP watched his New York G-men beat Tom Brady and the Patriots. Undefeated. Many called it the best team in NFL history. And Antonio Pierce and the Patriots, bam, pow, right in the kisser. Why? With a fearsome defensive line. It reminds me of that movie. I think it was about Josie Wales. All right, here we go. Now, Hondo, I hear you on the time needed for AO4, but we're in compete now mode, like you said. But how long can we evaluate at 804 before Devontae says enough, trade me? Seems like limbo logic on the team part. Wait and see, most important position, but win now this season. Seems contradictory on Telesco's part. When does Devontae draw the line? Or is there a line? Is he fine with AO4 or Minshew running the offense? And if things go south a few weeks in the season, would he ask for a trade? Mike W. Mike, God bless you, buddy. I love you. But some of your logic in here makes zero sense to me. I'm not attacking you or your character. The kid played 9 games. He went 5-4. His last 4 games, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. His last 5 games, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. They were down 2 offensive staff members, no OTAs, no minicamp, no training camp. After the trade deadline, trying to change an offense. And really the change wasn't a whole lot of change. It was more taking stuff out. Dear God, after year 1, people were ready to fire Peyton Manning. And I don't know that he's Peyton. I'm not saying he is. But oh my God, what about Devontae wanting to trade? Devontae has made it clear. He believes in it. Aiden O'Connell. He said it. Oh, well, he's got to say it. You don't know Devontae. He ain't got to say nothing. I'm around him. Devontae doesn't say one thing he doesn't want to say. In fact, when he doesn't want to talk, he just walks out of the locker room. I think it's hilarious how people, and Mike, you didn't do this. Oh, well, this player had to say that. I've actually had players say to me and send me screenshots of people's comments saying, do they think I'm a liar? I don't have to say. I mean, I'm sorry, but the whole world isn't sitting around. Is Devontae happy? Is he going to want to trade? First of all, that makes Devontae sound like he's a diva and it's all about him. And how can you call it a fault on Telesco's logic? The coach came out and said, AP said it. That's our guy. You got to beat him. That's what AP said. I mean, the kids had 9 games. I ain't seen enough. Throw them out. Really? 9 games. 9. With and his last 5, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. Okay. And here's the sad part. Some of y'all may be right, but it is a wild guess in the park. A wild guess in the park. That locker room believes in Aiden O'Connell. Now, I don't think anybody knows what they think of Minshew. They haven't played with him yet. But I have said, I am not convinced that Aiden O'Connell is the next Kenny Stabler. I'm the one that said, go sign a veteran and draft a rookie. I don't think that anything's promised. I think you let everybody compete. Man, some of y'all acting like this kid's crap. There are other teams that want Aiden O'Connell. Good teams. This is a good player. He may be a career backup. But man, he is showing you enough that there is interest there, and there are a lot of people in that locker room that believe in him. I don't get it. Don't understand it. Again, I'm not attacking you, Mike. You are welcome to any opinion. I just don't understand it. I know that players don't understand it. That locker room believes in him. And we're going to get into more AO4 talk, and you'll know why even more in a minute. But I think you got to go draft a rookie. If you think there is a world-changing quarterback available, if you think there is a franchise-changing quarterback out there, you go get him. I'm on the record saying that. I think the Raiders should draft a rookie this year. I think they should draft one every year. Always keep the pipeline going, or at least every other year. But man, don't get it. Next comes to us from Derek in Boise, Idaho. Hondo, I'm not going to refer to you as uncle because I'm older than you. Well, good. That's not a requirement, but I appreciate it. Getting off topic of free agency and the draft, could you explain what players are and aren't allowed to do in the building during the offseason? Are they allowed to have meetings with coaches? Can they work with each other? For example, QBs, wide receivers at the facility, Derek in Boise, Idaho. So they're allowed to go in, they're allowed to work out, they get treatments, whatever, but they're not meeting with coaches, going over strategy and changes in playbook, none of that. There used to be some teams that abuse the offseason. And so now none of that's allowed. It allows it to truly be an offseason. Quarterbacks and wide receivers can go to local parks or wherever they want and do football type things. They're allowed to do that. They're allowed to do that. I mean, that's on their own. They're grown men. But in the building, they're allowed to work out and, lift their weights and that kind of stuff. But, if they see the coaches, they can explain pleasantries. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Hey, how are you? Good. How's the family? Great. But not, hey, I added 44 new pages to the playbook. You want to see it? No, none of that's going on. None of that up. That's a great question, Dirk. Thank you. Now, hello, Hondo. Any thoughts on Anthony Brown Jr.? Been reading up on him and watched him, film on him with the Ducks and Ravens. Limited stats, but very mobile, intriguing, quietly wondering if maybe what the Raiders are looking for in a draft quarterback may already be in the fold. I need to also say I sincerely respect your joy and gratitude to your family that you show on your face when you speak of them. That's from Carrie T. Well, thank you, Carrie. My family is a great subject with me. Terrific subject. Amazing children, great wife. I had wonderful parents, great in-laws. So thank you. I get a lot of people who complain that I talk about my family. And if that's how you feel, you're welcome to go watch other podcasts. Because my family knows the amount of time that my job takes. And they never complain. But I want them to always know I really enjoy my job. I really enjoy getting to be your beat writer. I really enjoy talking Raiders. Matter of fact, somebody was saying, one of my members of my family was saying the other day, we need to do a family picture with everybody in Raiders stuff but dad. But people will say to me, oh man, you got a dream job. I bet you love your job. No, I enjoy my job, but I love my family. Yeah, talking about young quarterbacks, I think they're looking everywhere. Don't rule anybody out. Don't rule anybody out. They're looking under, you never know where the next future quarterback's coming from. Look at Brock Purdy. Look at Kurt Warner. You never know. Look at Jim Plunkett. Look at Rich Gannon. You never know. That's what makes this game just so incredibly fun. You really are trying to force teams to relinquish an oblong ellipsoid, beating each other up, doing things to each other that'll send you to prison if you did them anywhere else outside of those white lines. And you just never know where help's coming. I love that part of the game. Great question, Carrie. Thank you. Next one comes us from Chaplain Eric in Packerland. I want to ask you about AO4. I remember you saying on the podcast a few times that AO4 was more mobile while at Purdue, while in the Josh McDaniels and Hardigree schemes, he was a statue in the pocket and got lit up by the likes of Khalil and others. Getsy wants mobility and a new scheme. Minshew has some mobility. Do you know if AO4 is working on his mobility this offseason? And he doesn't have to be Patrick Mahomes, but I'd like to know AO4 is working on mobility, especially if he wants to win the QB1 position. Thoughts? First of all, he doesn't have to win QB1. He is QB1. He needs to hold on to QB1. Number two, and I'm sure you've missed it, I've talked about this several times. As soon as the season's over, he started working on mobility. Now, Getsy has had a lot of things attributed to him that are not 100% accurate. So I actually am going to read you the quote from Getsy. This is what Getsy said when asked about what he wanted in a quarterback. Quote, kind of like anything, you'd like to have a little bit of everything, right? And I think in this game, I think it's really important that you have some type of escape ability. It doesn't mean you have to be as dynamic as Justin was, but I think you have to have escape ability. You have to be able to have the second chance and create the extended play, whether it's just sliding in the pocket or whether it's extending it with your feet outside the pocket. So all those things are really important. It was on display in the Super Bowl, as we just saw here in Vegas. That ability of both of those guys to create the second chance of the play is an important part in our league. And when you're trying to go win games, you've got to go on third. You got to be good on third down and in the red zone. And when when you're good at those two things, it usually is because your quarterback has some kind of cool dynamic to be able to split the ball around, which we were pretty good at that thing the last 2 years. Okay. AO4 has been working on this since the season got over. If for some reason you've missed it, when he was at Purdue, he showed some mobility. He was not Patrick Mahomes, but he wasn't asked to be. Okay. Then he comes under Josh McDaniels, who used to tell Derek and everyone else, stay in the pocket. Go back and look at Mac Jones. Go back and look at Tom Brady. That's how he wanted his quarterbacks to be. Jimmy Garoppolo, same way. So since the season's been over, AP was very clear to him. You're going to have to get some mobility now. Peyton Manning used to occasionally run. Occasionally. I'm not calling him. Tom Brady would run and surprise people. Sometimes it's just taking 2 steps to the right or 2 steps to the left. Sometimes it's just moving a little bit in the pocket. Sometimes it's stepping up. Then there are guys like Patrick Mahomes. Minshew is already more mobile, but he's been allowed to be. AO4 is more mobile and showed it in college, but he didn't with the Raiders. He's been working on it. Again, I want to make sure everyone understands AO4 is QB1 going into the offseason, but he's going to have to keep it and he has to compete. I love that. I have no issues with that whatsoever. That's why I have said since before the season was over, you draft a quarterback, you sign a veteran, you have Aiden O'Connell, let's roll. Let the best one win it. This is what I love about pro football and the National Football League. There's no participation trophies. Dear God, can we just outlaw those? Destroying of a generation. That mentality of, we can't ever tell Johnny he lost. Some people lose. I love that. Just pure me against you. Who's going to win it, baby? Who's going to win it, baby? And you let him go compete. I don't think that you've seen enough to rule out AO4. I don't, as a trash, and I don't think you've seen enough to say he's Patrick Mahomes, but I think you've seen enough to say, okay, there could be something here. I personally think there might be. But I'm not willing to bet my life on it. I haven't seen enough. I've heard he's working on it. I've heard he's one of those guys busting his tail, working hard. I'm going to tell you, a lot of folk have bet against AO4 in his career and been made to look silly for it. I'm not betting against it. I'm just pretending I'm from Missouri. Show me. So there you go, everybody. Thanks for joining us this Wednesday. Do not miss tomorrow's podcast. It's going to be really good. Got some special things working for you also, by the way. Got a lot coming. So from all of us to all of you, God bless you. Have a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow.